Good evening all. You ready?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
So it is 5:30 today, October the 7th, 2024. I'd like to open today's bar meeting. Welcome all. So much for coming. First of all, I'd like to welcome who's our new bar member. Brilliantly qualified. And we're so grateful that you're giving your time to this good cause. Thank you. Also present is Christopher Gao, was supposed to be by Zoom.
He's there.
Oh, there he is.
In
Okay,
lower-
hi.
lower right.
Thanks so much, Rob McQuilkin and myself. So the first case today is Sophia Delana. So would you come up and tell us the latest legal status of your case?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, my name's David Kenny, attorney with Snyder and Snyder. We're the firm
Okay.
representing Sophia Delana.
You got that, Desiree?
I have
So the application that was before you was a pending application for Delana to put up, Miss Delana to put up a fence so that she can secure her property with the idea of making sure we can keep the deer out of the property from eating her plants, as well as any trespassers. That application, from our understanding, was put on pause because of some pending litigation. We had made the arguments that there's an ample New York State case law that says even in the stance of litigation, private property rights are not supposed to be part of the review and approval for a zoning application. So from our standpoint, we felt that the removal of the application or the pause on that application was actually improper. Then we had filed we installed some camera posts and some no trespassing signs. Since we didn't have the approval for the fence, Ms. Delana needed to use other methods to try to secure her property. So
Also without bar approval, right?
well, we didn't believe that there was a bar approval required for
Needed.
that. Correct, because
Okay.
the way that the code is written, there's nothing in there that talks about no trespassing signs in camera posts needing an actual BAR approval. So they were installed, and then the building inspector made his determination that there is language in the code that would require a BAR review and approval.
Okay.
That first determination was actually appealed to the BZA because, again, there's some legal case law, particularly your First Amendment free speech rights to having no trespass signs. And then the camera posts were also needed to secure the property. The BZA did determine that John's determination that the signs and the camera posts require a BAR approval was upheld, but they overturned John's determination that the Village of Tuxedo Park does not allow signs altogether. So as part of John's initial determination, he required that we make an application to the BAR for those camera posts and the no trespassing signs. So on July 15th is when Ms. Delana, through our firm, filed her amendment to her pending application for the fence so that she could get an approval from the BAR for the camera posts and the no trespassing signs. And these are intertwined as she needs the signs and the camera posts to, secure her property, but we can possibly reduce the number of no trespassing signs if we get the fence approved, because then the fence will act as a delineation of her property line and will also mark to any trespassers where her property begins. So then she would only need essentially one or maybe two no trespassing signs just at the intersections of her driveway and where the shared driveway starts, as well as the intersection of the terminus of East Summit Road to where her property starts at the end of East Summit Road. So our application for tonight for this board is really the whole kit and caboodle. We're here tonight seeking an approval for the fence that she's installing, as well as the camera posts and the no trespassing signs. The distinction is that we did make a couple of minor changes to the fence. So Ms. Delana has now proposed a different type of material. This is the plastic mesh instead of the metal, if that's preferred by the board. We're also at the end of the property line where we have the end of East Summit Road, the terminus, where that is. We're also proposing to install a gate there so that we can have a backup area for any emergency vehicle access. And then also what we'll be able to do is at that gate area, we can provide the fire department with either, we can daisy chain the lock and provide them with their own lock, or we can provide them with a code. So previously, the fence was going to be 6 feet at the property line on the side yards, 4 feet at the front yard with a 2-foot setback, but there'll be a 5-foot setback at East Summit Road because there's a 5-foot setback requirement from any roadway. And that is the location that we'll put the gate in. Because our understanding was the main reason why there was a concern involving the litigation about the fence in this particular location was emergency access. So the fire department, as you may know, wrote a letter in January of earlier this year stating they could still make access, but likely they would damage a fence if a fence was put in that location. So they asked if a gate could be provided. So we are now providing the gate. So from our standpoint, there's no longer any issues for emergency access. Access is being provided in the manner that the fire department requested. And so it's just now a matter of the design of the fence and whether or not the board has any particular specific guidelines that you would like Ms. DeLauner to follow, or if you're accepting of her fence application as proposed.
So would you like to say
Yeah.
something?
Very small thing, because that was supposed to be a permanent fence, that metal thing, right?
Mhm.
And this is actually going to be just temporary because I planted hedges around the property, and until the plants will mature and actually create a hedge, I need this because deer are eating things.
So one of the things Ms. DeLauner is proposing is the fence may not be needed for the long term. Is probably going to be 2 growing seasons, so approximately 2 years. And then the fence can come down. Again, her main need for the fence is to ward out trespassers, but also to protect her plantings from the trespassing deer.
And so, Mrs. DeLauner, you've already planted hedging
The borders, yeah.
all along as represented here. Is that right?
Yeah, I have hedges. You know what? Hold on a second. Tools are necessary. Okay, so on this map, I have hedges here, here. Actually, nothing here because there is a rock,
Mm-hmm.
so nothing would grow here.
Boulder outcropping there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so nothing is going to grow there. And I have hedges in front. And I have a little bit on this end. And well, that's it.
And this deer fencing
Mhm.
with similarly kind of invisible sort of black steel poles, or
They're going to be green plastic poles, but that's, again, we think the green will blend in with the hedging. Yeah.
would go on the inside of the hedges. Is that right?
No, actually, it's going to be between the border and the hedges because it needs to protect the hedges until they fill in. Because turns out to be deer are eating it.
So the way it would work is the code requires a 2-foot setback from the property line. So it'd be the 2-foot setback, her fence, and then the plantings.
I see.
Yes, the plantings are like 4 or 5 feet away. From
I
the
just
property line.
recall so vividly when we all sat in another bar meeting and you had proposed a garden plan where the plants would be outside of the fence too, so that it would protect.
Yeah, it wouldn't work because all the plans that were suggested and all the plans that I put in there, actually, all of them are not deer resistant.
Why
And
not
actually-
put some deer resistant ones? I mean, it would,
Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist in
It
nature.
does.
Yeah,
it exists. I mean,
I'm open to suggestions.
okay. So I think in general, I would say that
Sorry.
that I'm very happy that this is an improvement from the more aggressive looking fence. But I feel that it's kind of depressing to have a landscaping plan developed by lawyers, not by landscapers and architects. No offense at all. I understand why you're important, and Jared also. But it'd be so good if we had a comprehensive plan with the design for the lights and the cameras and a design and a proper understanding of what sort of gates we're planning. Gates are so important. You know, this is a place on the National Register of Historic Places. And I think it's so important to do things well from a design point of view, not for you only,
Yeah, I
but
will.
for
will, yeah.
everyone here. So it's not even for the immediate neighbors, it's for the whole place. I think everything we do has to take into consideration the precedent for others. I think it's, you know, this place is different from many others. It's been preserved by so many people who care about it for hundreds of years, over 100 years. And it'd just be so fantastic if we could all work together to, you know, if we could quietly go and say, we only perhaps need only one sign to be safe, and we could come up with a you know, beautiful gate, and we can maybe work together to come up with a garden plan that's not a, you know, not a kind of a quick sketch, but something thoughtful that actually would enhance your property more than any other.
Whatever I already put in is very thoughtful and supposed to work. And also, please keep.
What did you put in?
I put hollies as a hedge. And then I don't know, I planted maples, but I'm still in the process of developing it. So it's
Right.
hard for me to create like a comprehensive plan because it's me who is developing the entire property. It's not
Right.
landscapers, it's not lawyers, it's me.
So
But
Mrs.
you know, everyone goes to, even, you know, I also go before the bar, before planting anything and before developing anything. It seems you planted everything there without asking.
Actually, you know what? Because I already bought the plants before BAR asked me to provide a plan. And so I had to bring them from the nursery and start putting them in the ground because we were talking about like tens of thousands of dollars of plantings. So I couldn't just throw them away. The nursery is not going to take them back. So I had to act, and I did.
Yeah, I mean, plants can be healed for a season or two, you know, into mulch or whatever, but that's obviously a moment has come and gone.
Yeah, it's a lot of plants.
Yeah, so these have all been planted.
Yeah.
And are they all, is it a monoculture of American
is.
holly?
Yeah, it is. It's blue princess and blue princess. To make sure that they bloom, that
I
they
see.
provide
Right, right.
berries for the birds and everything else. Also, please keep in mind that my property is completely landlocked.
Mhm.
So it's not visible from the street.
Right.
It's not, it's like in here, it is visible only by the visitors who are coming to me. Believe me, they are not going to object to my taste, right? Here on the road, there are no plantings.
Sure.
So,
And again, you know, the circumstances that Ms. Delauner is in, she's needed to use any and all, you know, mechanisms at her disposal so she can try to mark her property line and again, try to protect her property rights. So I do appreciate that, you know, lawyers aren't very good at drawing and we're not very good at planting, but there are legal reasons why she's proposing her application in the manner it's proposed. But you know, we'd be willing to, if the application can be approved, we're definitely willing to reduce the number of signs to one. We can put it at
Can you
East.
Give us a sense of where that sign would be
We
right
would put it
here.
East Summit because
Right.
again, this is the area of the property that's in
Feel
contention.
where it's confusing to a,
Yeah, this is like East Summit
Pedestrian.
just dead ends right at her property and there's no sign or anything to let anyone know. And even though the pavement ends, part of the pavement still extends on her property and then it's cleared because it used to be a, you know, paper street.
and there will be a gate here and here, or no?
actually, no, there is not going to be a gate here. It's not needed.
So not here, it's just gonna be
Oh.
It's
here.
just over there.
I see. So here you drive right up through unobstructed.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually, you know what, there is sort of like, instead of the gate, I have, what is it called? Cattle grate. So
no
deer-
wonder. Okay.
yeah,
okay.
so
Well, that's
deer
what I was
cannot-
asking.
cannot-
Why would you deer fence the whole thing in?
No, I don't have to.
But you do have a gate. It's a cattle grate there. Yeah.
Okay, and so there would just be the one gate here, 5 feet in, back here, and the camera would be here as well as the sign.
So the cameras we have on a separate plan, I have that plan right here.
If you don't mind me saying, we really should have all these items on one plan. But for me, looking at the plan that I have, that was revised back in the beginning of April. And I could just tell by this that there are things that might be different from the April plan.
So,
Unless
yeah,
that is the April plan.
this is the
It
April
is, yeah.
plan. So this was the plan that was filed on April 25th.
Okay.
So, yeah, this
But
is.
they've added the shrubs, for instance, that's new.
But no, that was, this
That's
was, so
already
this is the part of the
passed.
filing from the April
Yeah.
twenty-fifth
I
file.
see.
So
This
the
is a
pla-
different page.
Yeah, the plan was originally filed and then she added the plantings in here, because originally what she had proposed was an 8-foot fence around. And then that exceeded the height limitation. So then she went to the Board of Zoning Appeals to see if she could get a variance for the height. And they came back and they said, nope, you can't get that. So then to be code compliant, she amended her application to be 6 feet along the rear and side yards and 4 feet in the front. And then she included these plantings as well.
Well, this was the original revised plan that
Okay.
shows the 4 feet and 6 feet. It just doesn't show the plantings or the no trespassing signs or the cameras.
Because,
That's all.
yeah, the no trespassing signs
Or
again.
later on.
Yeah, because it was, after this was already put into purgatory, so to speak. Then there was an application that came out of her installation. So she's marked up this drawing and then here's the key for it. The ones are the wooden camera posts and these are 4x4, 10 feet. And then these are the metal posts, the 2s are the metal posts for the signs. But again, our offer is that we can reduce this to one sign down here at the end of East Summit Road. So that, you know, if we have the fence, then we don't need the signs in the other places. But she's experiencing continuous trespasses on her property. So she needs the cameras right now to protect her
So
property and
every,
protect her property
every
rights.
point here is a camera.
Every number 1 is the camera and these number 2s are the fence or the signposts, sorry.
Current.
Current, correct. And this is all that's proposed right now. But again, if we had an approval for the fence, we could condition that approval on removing all of the sign posts to just one being over here at East Summit Road.
And having a fence in that relationship to the American holly bushes, John, that's on the outside, that's okay with the new fence code?
It's gonna go through fence lot. It's not
I see.
retroactive. All I can say is when we did have prior fence administration, it was expected that plantings would help mask the
Yeah.
overall view, not entirely, but at least help mask the view of the fence.
And to be fair, there is masking even from behind
Yeah.
because,
Because you cannot really see.
but
I
there's nothing
actually-
like having the fence on
Right.
the inside.
You have the picture I sent you
Yep.
of the fence. You basically like standing 5 feet away, you cannot even see. You definitely still see the poles, but you don't see the fence. Because I didn't download it on my computer.
So yeah, here's photos of the,
Yeah, I'm standing 2 feet away.
here's photos of it. Again, our thoughts are the design guidelines actually talk about being minimally visible. And then the brand new fence law actually talks for deer fences using this type of material, the plastic wire mesh. From our standpoint, again, if it was a picket fence, if it was a stockered fence, then obviously putting the fence in front of the trees, there's really going to be a visible fence there. This type of fence, it's really from a distance. It really dissipates, it kind of blends in with the landscaping. They're really hard to see from a distance. This is.
I don't think the question is regarding the material. The question is historically, plantings were expected to be at least some of them in front of the fence and not entirely behind.
I agree. I'm just trying to distinguish a picket fence or a stockered fence that's much more opaque and easily to be seen than a wire mesh fence, which again is kind of suggested in the new code as being with the material for a deer fence. And by nature, deer fence have to be on the opposite side of the plantings. Otherwise, the deer just walk right up to the plantings and eat them.
Well, I just wanted to mention just in relation to this, that there's a fantastic example of a fence like this with plantings in front, just to make it softer on the neighbors. It's someone on called Amy Gold, who has exactly that type of fence. She's got a cattle grid, and then she's provided beautiful planting that's been there for 2 years with nobody eating them. You should
What
maybe.
plants, Stephanie? What plants?
It's
are those?
there are probably 25 different native species. If you like, I can take a photograph, or
Yes,
you can
please.
just swing by there. There's some I see turtle heads, certainly some goldenrods. It's a beautiful variety of plants that blossom throughout the season. I mean, it's really successful,
Can
and
you
it
please send
completely
me-
takes your eye away from the fence.
Can you please send me the names of the plants and also the address where it is?
Okay,
Because I don't know that woman.
okay,
But-
sure. It's
But also from a legal standpoint, you know, the village board already issued what the setbacks are for fences. And, you know, by them stating that fences must be 2 feet setback from the property line, there has to be an idea in there that they're going to be visible from your neighbors. That's pretty close to the property line. And it's also only 5 foot setback from a roadway. So the location of her fences is code compliant. My understanding is the review for this board really is just the aesthetics and,
Yes.
and the design of it.
yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
she proposed her fence in a code compliant location. I think we're really just seeking is the material, is that acceptable to this board? Or is there specific directives that you're gonna give that we could comply with that would make a code compliant fence or an approvable fence?
Julie, what do you think?
I'm on the fence
Does it work?
momentarily as we, I mean,
I mean, I do think that,
Oh, sorry,
Oh.
Christopher, we forgot
Oh,
Christopher.
Christopher.
Sorry,
Christopher.
Christopher has raised his hand. I'm so
Hi.
sorry.
no, no,
Forgot.
not at all.
Was-
So I wanted to focus on the gate to understand correctly. Is it a proposed gate or is it just a cattle grid?
So the proposed is a proposed gate at the terminus of East Summit Road, 5 foot setback from the property line. Ms.
Now,
Delauner
when-
has the cattle grate at her
Entrance.
her driveway at the end of the common driveway. So
So-
that's already in existence. Sorry.
And so obviously we'd need a design for the gate because we're all about aesthetics here at this board. Now, when I went to that site before, there's a beautiful stone wall that is sort of divided between the two neighbors. Aesthetically, it would be wonderful that the gate could be positioned at the end of that wall. That would make sense. And that the deer fence doesn't come down sort of crossing over the wall, but it goes towards the end of that wall. And so aesthetically, it makes sense. That said, I'm thrilled that we're making progress between, you know, that we're having a good neighborly conduct, and that there's this compromise between the two neighbors to allow the fire brigade to God forbid, in case of an emergency, have access. What I would like is that whatever plan is finally submitted with the exact location is that the fire brigade sign off on it and say, yes, this would allow our truck to reverse and go up and put out the fire. So is that a possibility to have that fence at the end of the stone wall?
Yeah,
So kind of to be.
if there is a gate in
Right.
there is no need for the
Right.
fence.
So
The
that
gate is gonna block the deer. The main
And
idea is to block the deer from entering the property. So if there is something blocking them, why make two blockers?
no,
One gate, one fence.
I think
Sorry,
the
the-
thing is
I'm
would
talking
you
about
curve the
the
fence around the wall? Would you move the fence to go around the wall?
So it doesn't bisect it, sort of, I guess it would come this way.
Where is the wall?
Here, the-
Oh, actually, okay, right. So this is the top wall, then there is, I don't know, like 15 feet,
Yeah, and then
10
that-
feet drop probably
Exactly.
in there. And here is actually the end of the property. So the gate is going to start right here. So there is no need to put the deer fence.
no, your gate can be a 5 foot setback from the.
Right,
roadway. Yeah.
but starting at the wall.
Yeah, that's what they're asking is if you'd be willing to
Yeah.
To move it over
terminate the
here,
fence
move
to the
it.
end of the wall.
No,
Right,
that would be
that's-
like about 20 feet in. So that's a little bit too much space.
so then maybe what's called for here is either an idea of what the gate would be. And I think it would be helpful for you and for everyone there's a lot of precedent set whether any of us like it or not,
Mhm.
with deer fencing gates that have all manner of look to them. So I think if, rather than you going into the abyss of what will my gate look like, do we have suggestions to help you get through that? Or certainly there's plenty of unattractive deer fencing gates that have been cobbled together. So if there's going to be a flap over that, I feel like let's get in front of it. And if there's a suggestion, or if anyone has something they want to discuss about that, let's help make this.
Julia, I'm thinking actually the gate is going to be like a real, I don't know if how fancy schmancy it's going to be. It's probably going to be relatively simple, elegant metal gate, like a real gate. It would not be a deer gate as such, but it would be a gate.
And you wouldn't have a cattle grid here,
No,
like
no,
you
no,
have on
the
the other
cattle
side.
gates, I don't need a cattle gate.
No.
Even though it says that.
So just to help.
Yeah, this is basically a plan from her original approval for the driveway.
Was it driveway?
So Ms. Delana originally had tried to get it, and then these plans were then updated for her purposes of showing where the signs and the camera posts are located. I mean, from our standpoint, yeah, we'd be willing to make the decorative gate in a manner and style that this board.
I wouldn't make it decorative, I'd make it
No, no,
absolute.
yeah,
I
it's
keep
going,
saying-
it's going to be very simplistic.
I keep saying
It
decorative
should
gate
be
because.
purely functional. If this is
Yeah.
a service entrance, it's not,
Yeah.
you know.
Correct. It's just the new fence law calls it a decorative gate is the exemption from, so that, but a gate, a functional gate, we're happy with that and we can definitely have it reviewed by the board. But our standpoint is that if we could get her application acted on for the fence, then we could have that as a condition of approval that the gate is subject to the review of the BAR and building inspector. And we can also have that condition on removing number of signs so that there's only one sign located at this entrance. The issue is that, you know, this has been an ongoing situation for Ms. Delauner, and she has a real need for immediate protection of her property. So if there's anything we can do tonight to have an approval with conditions, if the last remaining item is just what is the design of this gate, we can leave that open and have that be something we follow up with and provide some different options for the board to review and choose from. But we would like to start moving forward with getting her fence up or getting it, you know, kind of finalized.
I have a few more questions. The height of any of the posts for either the signs or cameras, they have to be consistent or less than the height of the fence.
Well, the camera posts have to be much higher, John.
Well.
That's a requirement. That's a
sorry.
requirement for the, you know what, you could see a lot from the 10-foot height, but you could not see that much, especially when the landscape is not flat. The landscape is going like this. If you put a 6-foot post in there for the camera, you're going to be like seeing, okay, from here to the flag. What is the rest of it?
We're also, fine with putting the camera posts set back enough from the property line so that they're not in the fence area. But my understanding was that the BZA was in support of her having these camera posts. That, you know, there was,
Security. Yes,
yeah,
security
there
cameras.
wasn't any comment about the size of the camera posts or anything. It was just whether or not she needed a BAR approval for them. There wasn't any setbacks or height restrictions or anything like that in your denial. Our understanding was you just needed a BAR approval for that. So I'm not aware of any height limitations in the code that would restrict her from having a 10-foot post.
I need time to review that.
So I think that's our cue, John. I think we all need time to have this sink in. I think we need to have one proper application with everything in it. You know, every time we ask something, this is not there anymore and something else was added and something is unclear and we don't know what the gate looks like. We don't know what the actual answer should be on these cameras. I think it's really important just to draw everything together with the understanding that we're very happy where it's going with this choice of material. We're very grateful. But if you could just draw it all in so that we can have a site visit and really understand what's going on, just so that we don't set a precedent that can, you know, really damage the rest of this beautiful community.
I really wouldn't be worried about that. You have a new law coming out in probably a couple of weeks or a month. So
Mhm.
anything you act on her, I mean, the precedent gets thrown out the window because you have a brand new law coming in. So for anything with regard to the fence, I mean, if you make a decision on this, this is probably your last decision on this current version of the law. So there's no precedent setting effect. As far as the camera posts, again, I mean, she has an obligation, you know, to protect her property rights, and we have this ongoing situation. So I again respectfully request if there's any way we can get an action from this board tonight, albeit with conditions that, you know, discuss the design of the gate and discuss the number of signs that are proposed. I mean, we're very amenable to that. But I have to, you know, request on behalf of my client if there's anything we can do tonight, because and she's in a situation that's just untenable. She needs to start making sure she can do with whatever is in her right to protect her property rights.
Cameras are there, right?
No, not yet.
No, just the posts.
You've got no camera
We
whatsoever.
have some cameras, but we don't have cameras in all of the locations that we feel are necessary to make sure that we have her
See,
entire property
Why
line.
we just need to take a look. It's just too difficult. You know, we're sitting and looking at a map and you're saying there's some, but she says there are none, and then it's,
The
we
cameras
just have to
are
look.
actually about this size.
Mhm.
They're
Okay,
black.
well, we're gonna have to check, so
Okay.
I think it's
Those are
fair
tem-
to everyone.
and
We're
those
just
are
gonna have a
temporary?
proper application where everything is properly recorded. So what is there, what is actually approved, what's been done since the last applications, and to see a design of the gate, to see the cameras, to see a proposed design of the remaining, you know, how many of these signs are going to be there. And I just feel you know, maybe I'm a total idiot, but I find it really complicated to visualize what's actually going on here. So I don't
No,
feel
I agree.
comfortable voting on anything at this time.
There's so many uncertainties, so many vagaries, Mrs. Delana. To protect you as well, it's important that what you're proposing and what we agree on is crystal clear and in writing, and there's so that you're protected, so that nobody can come after you and say this is not right. That you can say this is right and this has been approved. So it protects you as well. I just wanted to just readdress the gate issue again. Would it be possible to put a cattle grid there? Because that would stop the deer and it wouldn't.
No, I'm sorry. It's extremely expensive actually, and it takes several months because they need to manufacture it, because they need to bring it from Texas. They need to install it. The winter is coming. They would not be able to actually do any outside work, especially on the road during the winter. So the gate, even if I would be willing to put another gate, another cattle crate in there, but what is it going to save actually? Just the deer? Yeah, Christopher, besides the deer, we have constant trespassing. So the deer grate is gonna resolve the problem of the deer not being able to pass into the property. But what about the trespassing?
So if it's going to be a gate, when you come back with the style and the placement of the gate, we are going to be very focused on the aesthetics of that and the appropriate placement.
Sure.
So it cannot just be you know, a gate sort of 5 foot from the border or something. It needs to be appropriate to the wall and to the setting. So that's what we're concerned about. So bear that in mind. And so this is my thought, is that, you know, it would make obvious sense for the gate to be at the end of the wall. If it's any other position, it's going to look very weird and aesthetically not right. And so it would be difficult for us to approve it. So just bear that in mind. The placement is very important.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
We hear your comments and we'll absolutely review them. But again, as the gate has to be functional, as Ms. Delana needs the gate to prevent trespassers. And so if she puts the gate so far back where she's staying at the end of the wall is more than 20 feet away, she's essentially giving up part of her property to trespassers and not protecting that portion of her property. So we could try to make the gate fit into the property as it exists as best as possible. And we can try to provide a design that's most appeasing to this board. But I don't believe this board has any jurisdiction to review over the location of it, as that's already been set by the code as a setback. So we're not saying no to that, just we do have to know that we can't put the fence so far back that we're giving up a portion of the property to trespassers and members of the public to park their cars on or use as they feel. She's putting the fence up with the exact purpose of trying to protect her property rights. So moving it so far back so that there's a section of the property that's no longer protected kind of defeats the purpose.
And also the gate is not going to be solid. So you would be able to see the remainder of the wall, the remainder of the wall, and whatever is happening on the property is going to be very visible. The gate is going to be sort of like pretty minimalistic, I would say. It's still going to be a metal.
But maybe
Gate.
there's a design we can come up with that would
Yeah.
be appeasing to the board or a few different options of designs that would work. We'll take the comments we've heard tonight under review and see if we can come back with something that's approvable to this board.
And I agree with Stephanie, it should be completely clear what is being proposed. And if you're proposing two different plans, propose those very clearly. If it's an A or B scenario, make that entirely clear what A is and entirely clear what B is.
Sure. Again, the situation we found ourselves in, why this was so, a little bit of a rushed application admittedly, it was again, our first application, it had a lot of public opposition. So there's need to, on the fly, amend things right before meetings. So she had to accomplish that as best as she could to get in front of the board with an application that you could act on at the nights that you had the meeting before you. And then with this one, this came out of a violation. So we had a notice of violation related to the camera posts and the signs.
Right.
So we had a certain amount of time that we could get the application in before a violation would have been issued. So again, we had to rush here because of the circumstances we found ourselves
But it
in.
does help us do our job. And as
Yeah.
Christopher says,
Yeah.
protects you, Mrs. Delander, and us if it's, entirely
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
And the only last thing I would say, which is sort of a micro note, is that in my experience, having the poles be black along with this renders them more invisible. I think shifting between green and black with two different colors in the materials you're using, particularly when I look at how young these American holly are, this is going to take easily more than a decade, and that's an understatement for these two.
No, I was told 2 years. Actually, you know what?
My experience working with this plant is that that's not accurate. So
Well, on the other side, actually, they're almost touching.
my experience is that I'm looking at these is that you'd be talking about a decade before those are appreciable and really discussed. Certainly, when you can take this down, unclear to me, but.
Appreciate that. Again, her property is unique, it's set back from the roadways in the sense that not any part of this fence would be visible from a roadway except for this small portion of East Summit Road, which again, we're going to put the gate there. But I've heard your comments.
But I mean, just to the point, I think this deer fence probably will have a longer life than you're thinking it might, and that to make it as invisible as possible with just one simple black shade. I mean, I think that is what sort of disappears most.
Okay.
Or all green.
Or go all green, I suppose, as well.
I mean, there are stock
They-
colors.
Yeah, they're stock color green, dark green. So actually painting every post.
That's something we can review since
You wouldn't
we're already
do
coming
that.
back. We can review that and see if we can.
That's
work
what
up
You
with
that
said
would
they were
work
green
well.
posts.
They're green posts.
So I
and
was
black
just
net.
saying we could maybe find a green mesh to make it,
Exactly.
so-
Maybe we could figure out in our responsive submission some options for you guys.
Thank
to
you
review.
so much. Thank you so much for
Green is
everything.
actually very, very bushy. Whatever I saw on the
Okay.
green, it's like, it's not dark green, it's almost like a very bright,
Okay.
like
Mhm.
spring.
I would tend
Green.
to go with black. I mean, that's
Yeah,
sort of,
that's less
and
visible.
historically in the village,
Yeah,
that's. sort of
that's
what
less
is
visible.
encouraged, you know.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep this or?
Yeah. And if you don't mind, you should re-review that, before you submit.
Thank you so much, John.
Any comment, please?
Um,
Public?
am I allowed to, Jared, am I allowed public
The
comments at
the
this
applicant,
time?
the applicant should be present. presenting comments.
Go ahead.
Well, then you should comment while the application is still before. the
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
John Sarfona, nice to meet you. Welcome. I just want to make sure we have the record straight that council had, I think misspoke, that there was no delay of proceedings with this board due to litigation. The delay was because there was a conflict of interest alleged by your now former chair and a former member, which was submitted to council for this investigation and determination. That was the delay. So now we have new board members, new chair. So I understand now I'm proceeding, but here we are again. I was here in April and the applicant was told clearly to have a plan that came up with by an arborist. What are you gonna plant? Where's it gonna go? How's it gonna be planted? We still don't have it. That was April. I mean, it's just not fair. And you know, my client is Mr. Gazzoni, the neighbor, the alleged trespasser, because his oil truck needs to turn around and needs that little area, which they've been using for 20-something years now, or however long he's been there. So, you know, what we're hearing tonight is, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. I'm gonna do it when I want to do it, and then I'll come here later on and ask permission. Now, Mr. Ledwith here had numerous times gone on the property and said, you can't do this. You have to come back. You have to get permission. You got to go to the board. But they're still there. A 10-foot post with a sign on it, cameras everywhere, lights. I just sent Mr. Ledwith the pictures from my client's bedroom of the beaming lights coming from Ms. Dellner's house into his bedroom. So all of these things happen. And then they come here and say, oh, give us approval now, temporary approval. We'll worry about all that other stuff later. I'm glad that this board is being deliberate and taking its time to make sure that the application is correct and complete and to give it all the due consideration. The only objection that, you know, my client has, the main objection he has is this location of this fence, because the fire department can't get a truck up that driveway. The oil truck delivery can't get up that driveway. So if the fence is 5 feet back, my client has no choice but to bring in Article 78, because he loses his homeowner's insurance, puts his family in danger, and the investment that he's the curator of this property is in jeopardy. And it'd be irresponsible for him to allow that to happen. So
Do I understand that the placement 20 feet back, if indeed that is what it would be, or it could be 15 feet, I mean, I don't know if that's exaggerated or not, would allow the oil trucks and emergency vehicles to do what they need to do to get up the switchback?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And we're going to confirm that.
You don't need a gate.
But we're going to confirm that.
But if the applicant feels that the applicant needs a gate, putting it back there, as Christopher Gao was saying, so that it's coming off the wall, that would sort of minimize any problem or
Yeah.
get rid of it.
And also there'd be no gate necessary if it were a little bit back,
Right.
20 feet back.
Can you also, one thing that didn't come up until just now in your comments, this question about the lights
Yeah,
is
that's
very
new.
worrisome to me. Where are the lights, or?
John?
It's been explained to me the lights are mounted above the garage doors at the house.
Okay, and they're sort of shining out.
Directly.
It has not been on like for months.
Excuse me, this is not
It
just
hasn't
part of
been
our
on for
application.
months.
There's been nothing like, I understand council's making points and that's fine for having the back and forth, but that's not part of our application. And, you know, this isn't just a carte blanche review of her property. Like, we have a specific application in front of the board. I could also respond to his comments about, you know, access. The fire department letter clearly says they have access even with the fence at the property line. They just said, though, there's not go over the fence. They've asked for a gate, so we're providing the gate So from the fire department standpoint, we're providing the exact mechanism of access that they've asked for. We have cameras that have documented that the turns out of Mr. Guazzoni's property can be made without ever backing up into Ms. Delana's property. There's ample evidence of the security cameras recording access to Mr. Guazzoni's property without needing to back up. However, just because there's a dangerous condition that occurs with his driveway, that has not given him carte blanche to take away property from another property owner. That's something he can go ahead and resolve in court. He has a litigation in court to review that. That cannot be a part of your review at all. There is ample case law that says that disputes between private property owners regarding easements, regarding any of those private property rights are not to be before a zoning board or a planning board or board of architectural review in their review of an application. Your application is limited to whether or not her fence meets the design guidelines set by the village. All of these,
Because I was speaking, I had the floor and you've now filibustered me. I want to get back to the point. The point here is, I don't know where those lights are, right? Mr. Levitt just told us where, but we don't know whether they're part of her plan because she hasn't put in the plan that we're here
I'm going to
today
interrupt you again. You
discussing.
cannot continue to
I
talk
am-
about stuff that's not the subject of the application.
The application, there are lights. We don't know whether they are part of this application because the application is incomplete. She came here today with an incomplete application, no arborist renditions of what she's gonna plant. So I have a right to bring it up. My client's, has a spotlight shining in his bedroom. So wherever it is, if it's part of this plan, then you'll review it. If it's not, then you won't review it. The other thing is about these posts. I mean, they are in the ground and she has no permission to put them in. So they're there and it's, let the fire truck knock over the. It's again, putting the cart before the horse. And thank you for your steadfast deliberation in this, and we'll come back next time and see where it is.
I have 2 more minutes. I'm gonna show you the photographs here. This is today. This is where East Summit Road goes into the public footpath. And
There's no public.
please, I was not rude to you.
I appreciate that you're
You
now
had
going
parents
off
who
course.
taught you nice manners.
Okay,
This is my son. You can see these, she stitched together 5 signs to form an obstacle. You can see how tall the signs are. You just heard the applicant say that there's no plantings on East Summit Road where you can see there are plantings just to get in the way of my oil truck. Since 1997, we've had fuel deliveries. The oil truck does not make it around this curve. We need that 20 feet. Mr. Gao proposed something very logical. The beauty and aesthetic of the wall will be retained if we push 20 feet back. Ms. Delano, you do not need to spend more money on a fence. You can just put on a gate, you can put the fencing straight across. Push it back 20 feet, allow us to have a fuel delivery once or twice a season. Allow us to, I can get fire insurance because there's no obstruction for the fire trucks. I have not seen this new material yet. First of all, there are cameras everywhere. There are cameras that are 4 feet off the ground. There's maybe 15, 20 of them. There are 10-foot posts. And all the posts, the 10-foot posts point at my house. Now, the judge who was looking at these photographs used the word spiteful to describe the situation. I think she was pretty dead on. The cameras point at my property where my children play. My children are being filmed by her day and night when they play. It's a little creepy. She's basically de facto ringed her property with fence already. 90% of her perimeter is already fenced in. This is what it looks like.
I will give the, 1, 2, please.
David,
I'm sorry, David.
But so this is actually, you actually put this fence up already?
This
She's
is
already-
only- Okay, let me answer, please.
Okay.
That's question addressed to me. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is, I am allowed to protect individual plants.
Oh,
So
I see.
so this is a fence around a group of plants.
Arborvitae, yeah.
90% of the perimeter has this fence on it right now.
They kind
90%.
of oak-
They overlap and yeah. This is not objectionable. This is okay, Sophia.
So why are you complaining about it?
I'm not
If it is
complaining.
okay?
I brought it in to say this is okay. If this is your solution, paint the top black or dark green or whatever, make them the same black. This is very, very acceptable to everybody.
Right, I actually don't
Okay.
have to paint anything here because this is a temporary fence until another
I'm
temporary
just asking you as
fence.
a nice neighbor, Sophia, okay? This
I
is
cannot-
acceptable. Move it
no.
back. It's right now, it's 7 feet back from the property line. We can barely see it. You know, the top of the fence posts are bright yellow. Those can be taken care of.
Mhm.
But this is an acceptable solution to what we have. Allow us the 20 feet that Mr. Gao suggested. She does not need to spend money on a gate. She can just put the same type of fencing across it.
So, I
That's a
mean,
good
I think-
compromise.
I think it's really helpful to see some of these kind of stunning photographs.
We can keep them.
I think it sort of, I think, just want to reiterate, I think we need to do a site visit
Yeah,
on the basis of really exact plans. If there's an A and a B, make it, quite comprehensive and clear. And then I think we do need to come, I mean, this is a little stunning. I mean, none of what I'm looking at here, you would never have had any sense that these things had already been built and, implemented without that photo documentation. Our conversation wouldn't have led me to believe that that was the case.
I apologize. I thought it was all known that the signs were installed. We were saying,
there's a stop work order on them also, right?
well, that was the whole point of the BAR filing
Mhm.
was we originally had the fence, basically, well, we had the fence put on hold. I understand there's a differing of opinion of why that was put on hold, but the fence application was put on hold and there was no longer any reviews of the fence application. So Ms. DeLonner had to find something within her rights to protect her property rights. Now, the signs that are there essentially to ward off any trespassers. And she has a First Amendment right to have these signs up. Now, we're here
Well,
tonight and we've said,
I'm listening to a lot of legal argument and I apologize for jumping in the middle of it all. While she does have a right, First Amendment right to put up signs, the village has the ability to, of course, as you know, dictate time, place, and manner restrictions. So to the extent that this board were to want to consider the aesthetics of those signs in the posts, I'm sure the village does not want to have, New York City style street signs festooned all over the village. They're entitled to have that ability to review these kinds of decisions. And
I appreciate that, but as you heard in our earlier application, if the fence is approved, we've stated numerous times, we're willing to reduce the number of signs to one sign.
I
at the
think
end of
just to
each
short
covered road.
circuit this, I think what I've been hearing is that they'd like to see from your client a detailed plan that describes the material of the fence, what the gate looks like, what the signs look like and where they're going to be placed if the fence was approved, and you could have different iterations of what that plan will look like, as well as what the posts will look like and whatever shrubbery you anticipate installing to, assist with the aesthetics. And I don't know if John handed to you what's known as the design guidelines that the BAR considers, but I direct you, or I suggest that you refer to page 42 that describes the considerations for fences, gates, and walls. And so.
Yep, I have a copy of that and, I have reviewed it. Honestly, there really is nothing in there that prevents the fence that she's proposing, but we were walking out of the door and I had the same direction that.
Except though, if you look at the last bullet point, right? Introduce simple utilitarian fences, chain link, plastic lattice, if necessary. So is this a utilitarian fence, or is it a deer fence, or is it something else? These are all questions that they need to ask.
Yeah, it's a combination. As we stated, it has a dual function. It's one is to keep out trespassers and also to keep out deer. But again, I'm fine with coming back with more perfected plans, but what we've heard tonight was from a public opposition. And, public opposition, they've put no trespassing signs on their property. That was actually put in and installed before no trespassing signs were installed on Mr. Lawner's property. I have
Were those
photos of this.
removed?
This is actually as part of a letter that was
They've been
submitted to
removed.
this board.
They've been removed, Council.
Okay, but at the same,
Two of the
Um,
four. Two of the four have been removed.
When?
so then they're not all been removed and
When
at
for
this,
when?
but hold on, let me finish my
3 weeks ago,
sentences.
4 weeks ago.
But so do you admit that there's still no trespassing signs up on your property?
I will remove them once she removes hers.
Okay, so right now,
What's
you
the
have
proposal?
admitted
if you
from the
wish.
public opposition
ones.
that he has no trespassing signs on his property, and there was no violation issued to Mr. Guazzoni, yet a violation was issued to my client for her signs. So I'm hearing that, and then also we have the letter. The letter was submitted from the fire department. It says clearly in that letter that they can access the property. They just said they may damage a fence if a fence was located in that portion of the property. But what they've asked for was for a gate for access, so we're
Right.
providing the gate.
And
Now what I'm hearing is
to address Mr. Sarcone's earlier comment regarding bringing in Article 78, I'd refer him to chapter 100-18 fences, subsection C, that talks about in the event that the police chief determines that there's a traffic hazard, he's permitted to bring that to the Board of Trustees' attention, and the Board of Trustees on their own motion can hire an engineer, a traffic engineer, to study whether that's a traffic hazard. So all of this can be resolved in the ordinary course. The first step is for your client to present to this board a full picture of what she anticipates building so that they can make a considered study of what's been proposed and make a determination with respect to the aesthetics and all of those criteria that they're charged with reviewing under section 100-54 of the village code.
That's a reasonable comment, and that was our direction. We were walking out of the door to do that. I just, we heard some public comments that I felt were in need of being addressed immediately, particularly one that it seems to be trying to litigate, a private property owner dispute in front of the BAR. Our issue again is
they're not going to entertain that. So, I think everybody's on the same page in terms of what's expected. I don't want this to become a litigation in front of the BAR members. I'm sure they don't want to sit in judgment of anyone. They just want to do their job. They're volunteers. This is a difficult position, as you might imagine, for all of them. And they really want to make sure that they get a decision, the right decision, as quickly as possible on behalf of the village.
I do appreciate that. My final comment is just the aesthetics of where the gate goes. It really has to be limited to the design and not the location setback, because the village code is already in the zoning code stated what the setback needs to be for the fence and the gate. And if the comment is the gate would look better further away from the road, that's great, but then the gate no longer has the function of protecting her property lines. And so there has to be some sort of balancing act here over the design of that gate and whether or not it's still going to be useful to Ms. DeLauner. So that's my final comment. We'll provide additional designs of the gate. We'll provide better plans. But it must be known that that location of that gate is affecting the function of the gate.
Council, if you push the gate back 20 feet, like Mr. Dow asked you to, there's no need for a gate. You can just put the fence straight across. That's all. One more thing, and I was talking before. There's one more point where local law and zoning law, Mr. Kashow, point out that the front of the house is the part of the property which borders a public road. This property is landlocked, with the exception of a 28-foot span that borders East Summit Road.
Mr. Guazzoni, I don't mean to interrupt, but I believe this matter was already adjudicated and there was no appeal taken of it. So this issue's been resolved, I believe, for these purposes.
Is that right?
No.
No, so anyway, we think that there should be a setback because this is the front of the house. Setback should not be 2 feet, but 5 feet on this side of the property. And we're gonna litigate that. We're gonna bring you guys to court on that. So it's easily resolved. Bring it back to 5 or 6 feet. This webbing is perfectly fine. These stakes are perfectly fine. Get rid of the little yellow tubs, make it nice for your neighbors. All right, you can do that. You can be nice to your neighbors, Sophia.
Yeah, let me
You're
show you
capable of
something.
it.
We're talking about the
All
neighbor,
right.
being neighborly.
So I think,
Enough.
I think we
Everything
should maybe
pretty.
at this point just
That's
return to
actually-
the
that's-
next,
No, that's actually
case.
something for the BAR to see,
well,
unfortunately.
okay, I think.
Does that
I
have to do
think
with their
we're finished.
application?
I think what we need to do, I think
No,
we know,
it's the
I think we know what we're
But
doing.
the
We've understood.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
make is.
I
just
got your
one-
point.
My last
Totally.
comment, just because there was another
Yeah.
comment made, is that the location of that gate, again, is a functional in nature.
Yeah, I
And
heard,
even though he's saying you
completely
don't need
understood
it.
what you said, every word. I've heard it and I remember it.
Okay.
And yours also. I do remember that stuff very well, including
And
things
listen,
people said, in prior meetings.
The reason why your counselor said that the issue of the front yard was an asked and answered issue is because there's already been a determination on that by the building inspector. And the time to appeal that determination is run. So again, I hope this board.
It's nothing to do with us.
No, to do with it.
So, and I would, so we all know what we're gonna do. And it'd be fantastic if we could get to the next applicant at this time.
Agreed.
Okay, can I please show you this?
No, I
This
think,
actually has to do with the BAR. It's about aesthetics that I'm forced to see for years.
I'm
every
sorry,
day.
but it's just too much right now. You know, we've had an application before us
Yes.
that we've now dealt with exhaustively and carefully
Okay.
and have taken everything into consideration. And you know exactly what you're gonna do. And I think I don't want to unravel other issues at this time,
I'll move
you
it,
know,
Sophia, don't worry.
you know,
Yes, please, but we move it not for 15 minutes, but
Tomorrow we'll remove
like
it.
forever.
I didn't know it bothered you. I'll remove it. That's easy. Take it.
John, didn't we already address it like some time ago for the stuff to be moved?
Yes, and
And more
I believe-
stuff appeared here?
and at that time, some items were removed.
We'll
This-
remove everything.
this is
That's
new.
easy.
Madam Chairwoman.
Is there a meeting going on here? Come on.
Madam Chairwoman.
Okay.
Fantastic, and very small comment,
Easy.
that my cameras are taking pictures of his children is a lie.
They are. Sorry.
I saw it today. I walked
Like,
right
I was
there.
there,
and
you're
saw
taking
it. They
pictures
were
of it.
taking pictures of his
Okay,
property.
so we're
where
now
children
moving
play.
to the next
Creepy.
subject.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
So the second case for today is Mr. Rivera. Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Okay, thanks.
Hey.
Yeah, so I'm mostly here to hopefully get alignment on just the removal of the fallen trees. There's a report that is proposing a lot more. I'm not asking for any of those permissions right now. I am engaging with Andrea Buckingham, our landscape architect, to come up with a landscaping plan,
Mhm.
at which point we can discuss all of the additions and changes that we would want to make. In the first bar meeting that I was in, when we started to process this issue,
Mhm.
that started 6 months ago, the agreement was that we would have an arborist come to the property, assess the situation, and propose a plan for how to remove safely the taken trees and the fallen trees and the top trees in a way that would care for the surrounding area and not impact the space additionally. We have done that. We engaged first, we brought one arborist to the property. He didn't want to take on the case. I wrote a letter about this. We found another arborist, the same one that now the bar employs. He wrote this report. He thinks we should take the top trees, but let's not litigate that now. Like we're leaving them there. I'm not trying to get rid of them.
He thinks you should top them for when.
His point is, they were dead
Oh.
60% up
Oh.
before we topped them, right? And then we topped the 20% or the 40% that were alive. And so now you have a tree that is basically dead, and then there's a little bit of life at the top, and then it's top in a very ugly way, right? Like it's done in a very poor way. He's like, remove it, replace it, sort of. But again, like I want to come up with a landscaping plan, all of this stuff. We can discuss this.
You really just want to get the cleanup.
I want to get the cleanup, and I want to remove I think the ban is technically on SB Curdy, but I've sort of applied it to any work. Like I want to get out of that state such that we can start doing maintenance to the property again.
With a different firm.
With a different firm,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And so that's really all that I'm trying to get through with today.
Yes.
Such that we can turn a page,
Yes.
and then we can start talking about the landscaping plan, review that, start afresh. Let's call it. Yeah, that's basically the background.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, the cleanup has to happen. The storm was now 4 months ago
Right.
or so. The damage is done. So, but I think moving forward constructively is the way to go. I feel for anyone who's dealing with, I know what that felt like emotionally when with all the storm damage and, when the storm swept through, because I was affected too. And I just know how I'd feel if I had to have all of that lying around for 4 or 5 months. I mean, it was pretty hard for the duration, which was about, we had ours cleaned up within well under a month, like 3 weeks. So.
Right.
So I think, Christopher, yes.
Oh, if I'd like to jump. I just want to say, so we've, had this big problem, and I'm very pleased that the applicant has done everything we've asked to remedy it and get the arborist report, which is a very honest report and saying what potential problems there will be in the future, which is important with trees. So I appreciate that. Thank you. What I would like to see is an understanding about the oak tree that was proposed. Because if he's proposing it be removed, the oak tree by the house, if he's proposing it that it should be removed because it's dangerous, then I agree that it should be removed, because we do not want to have any dangerous trees damaging people or property. In the case that another tree is to be removed, as with the previous trees, and I think you've alluded to in your letter, we want replacement. That's the most important thing we're looking for. So I see in your letter that I see in the arborist report, he's suggested some species. And in your letter, you've quantified it saying twofold, which I assume meaning every tree that had been removed will be replaced by 2 trees. I think that is great. It's the minimum. And so getting back to this oak tree, if you did feel that needed to be removed because it is dangerous, it looks pretty, it doesn't look 100% healthy to me. Oak trees are very strong, and it's quite beautiful in that sort of state it is. So I hope it isn't that dangerous and doesn't have to be removed. But if it did, already you could start, when you do your replanting, plant oak trees on another part of the property already to get a head start. And I understand that, yes, the replanting makes sense in the grand scheme of things with Andrea Buckingham because of the irrigation of them. It's it'd be foolish to replant quickly trees now without an irrigation system. So yes, when that application comes, and I think that time frame you put, the final quarter of 2015, to me is fine. That we would want that very clear report, which Andrea Buckingham has consistently done. So I'm very confident about that contractor that you have, that she will show exactly where, when, how these replacement shrubs of trees, saplings are placed. So thank you for doing this, and I look forward to seeing this remedy. And I hope that this procedure will resonate amongst all the other residents, that of how important we view trees, and that yes, we can compromise. If there is a view that needs to be made, the arborist can come and consult with the homeowner, present a report to us with the understanding of the needs of the homeowner and the needs of the bar, so that we could have one meeting and be able to come to a compromise instead of having to, you know, go through a multiple series of meetings. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment.
If I'm allowed to comment, so I was hoping to simply a quantification of the number of trees that are going to be replanted that come from John Linson, and are just there, you know, in a note saying this is the quantity and the type of tree. So 9 trees were taken down without permission, and they were these species, and therefore we should plant whatever many. And you know, so I would just to be able to quantify it, and then Andrea Buckingham can do, you know, whatever, but the quantity is important. I'm saying this, it's nothing personal whatsoever. We've run into difficulties of understanding when we haven't been very specific with numbers. So for instance, we allowed someone a small path, which we thought was going to be a small path, and it was a highway with trucks, and you know, it can be misunderstood. So I would just simply like a number that, so if John Linson says this is the number of trees, then it's finished. You don't even, I would say that we could even, I feel comfortable actually approving it if you say, I'm going to go back to John Linson, he's going to give me a number, and whatever number of trees he says is going to be going into the plan.
And if I could just interject before,
Yeah.
and particularly just to finish your thoughts, Stephanie, if you know, sort of work in a formula like Christopher's of 2 trees per one taken down, so that whatever the number is, I mean, if we.
Whatever John Linson comes up with.
But this is not for, can I just, sorry to intertwine. This is like a policy that we're making up right now here on the spot. I'm fine with that. I can agree to 2 trees for every tree. This is nothing to do with John Linson, right? Like, he cannot magically come up with a ratio of like, for every taken tree, there should be this number of new trees. That's something for you guys to propose and for me to agree to, right? And so I don't know that we need to re-engage John Linson to come up with that in his report. That's sort of absolutely outside of his scope. It's something that we should be able to
That's
agree
his
to
only
here.
scope. That's
No,
the
no,
only thing he's supposed to have done the whole time. That's his only thing.
Why is the ratio of cut trees to new trees replanted his? I don't think that's been clear to me at all why that is his scope. Because that's something that we are deciding here, right? That we're coming up with what we think is an appropriate, like, rectification of a bad situation. That
I would, my own feeling, just as one member of 5, is that if we come up with an appropriate number, and we come up with, you know, 4 or 5 species, Christopher, that are either sort of apex, you know, of apex importance, whether it's a red oak or if we have, you know, a dearth of white oaks, say, relative to red oaks, you know, to favor that, or certain things like shagbark hickory or something that is native here, but is fewer and farther between, certainly within the built area of Tuxedo Park, if we could come up with that, which I mean, my druthers would be to solve this swiftly and agreeably sooner rather than later. And I think with this group of people, we could easily come up with a ratio and a distribution of trees. And maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I do feel there's so much unnecessary rancor and misunderstanding between the public and this board that I would really like to sort of problem solve with expedition.
I'll say, just clearly state my position as clearly as I can. Like, I would love to solve this, like, in a way that feels like amenable and constructive today. The way I'm willing to resolve it is basically to say, I agree to 2 times the trees that were taken, 2 times 9, 18, either by trees that are proposed by Andrea in her landscaping plan that we will discuss together when that comes no later than end of Q1 next year, or if you prefer, 1-to-1 by the trees that were taken, which will then end up being pines. I'm fine with either of those two options. And as long as we get to an agreement of this tonight. If we can't get to an agreement on this tonight, then I cannot continue to push this forward in this way forward. Then we should just manage it like in village court, the way it was, originally brought to me. I cannot proceed in this sort of like, we're making up the steps as we go along. It doesn't work
That's why
for
we
me.
asked Mr. Linson to comment on your specific property, because I don't want to sit here and make something up that then becomes a precedent. Oh, you've been allowed 2 for 1, so we can cut trees and then you
But
get to,
since this
you know what I'm
process,
saying is.
yes, but since
you have
this
to
process
understand.
started, that has been the dance that we've engaged in. And so every time I come here and every time we interface, like we keep changing a little bit of what we want to get out
No,
of.
I would just say again,
Okay.
as one member, to the extent that the 2 trees replacement becomes a precedent, I would regard that as a very agreeable and positive and constructive precedent. Particularly if one can, and I take issue with the applicant, you may have taken down all these pines, but you did it without asking. And I think that the board, which has some credibility on this issue, particularly with Christopher Gao, who has spent, decades now, sort of organizing the tree board and strengthening the village's sort of diversity with the racetrack meadow and so forth. So I think that we would absolutely be in a position to ask you to agree to, focusing on white oaks, red oaks, shagbark hickory. I don't think that's inappropriate at all. What you took down is entirely a different matter. I mean, it was done without, so I think we're trying to problem solve, and I would ask that the applicant meet the board halfway.
And so I'm saying, I'm fine with either two outcomes. Either that like Andrea gets to propose a landscaping plan that will, in that brief, I will tell her, you need to replace, we're going to plant at least 18 trees, come up with proposals that will bring to the bar. Or that we say, we'll replace them with the same trees. Either of those are fine with me. I'm not fine that we today sit and say, here are the 3 or 4 species that are agreeable.
Would
to
you
us.
be fine giving us approval over what Andrea comes?
I mean, that is the whole point of
Okay.
Andrea presenting
Okay.
it, that you need to approve any landscaping plan that she proposes to the
Okay.
bar.
So what's your opinion on
I
that?
greatly prefer someone else to propose trees and replacement than to be the arbiter of trees. Just because that's
So
not,
you're happier with the idea of Andrea coming in?
I'm happier with someone proposing it.
Right.
Well, Andrea or it's. so
Or-
one is the.
Or the arborist that already was there. I thought that was going to be, it was a 2-parter, that he would also propose that.
Well, why doesn't
a remedy.
Andrea just simply consult with
Consult with him
Mr.
and just,
with Mr. Linson before,
Yes,
an extra step
I like
before
it.
coming
I
back?
like
I-
it.
I-
I
I
like
like
this. I
easier.
like it. I think we
Absolutely.
have it. We
Fine.
have it. We
done.
have it.
That's what we'd love.
That's it. This is it.
Perfect.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for breaking the
Great.
logjam.
Okay.
Andrea will
On your first
absolutely, in fact, I think in the report, I think it's even stated somewhere that he is going to. I believe, I'm not sure, I'm not gonna try to find it now.
Because he will say the same things that Christopher.
Yes,
Correct.
that's absolutely fine. We will, Andrea and Mr. Linson will work together in the proposal that she brings forward.
To get
Absolutely.
you out of the blocks.
Yeah, that is absolutely agreeable. My point is I need to be able to get back to maintaining my property.
Of course.
This has been
Yes.
going on for a very, very long time.
Sorry about that.
And if we can't resolve it today in this way, then I'm going to try to resolve it in some other way.
So let's resolve it today in this way.
That would be great.
So, would you like to propose the wording for the resolution?
Christopher?
Sure, yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve the cleanup of the removal of the downed trees, the removal of the dead pine tree, I believe it is, by the swimming pool, and the downed oak tree, the dead oak tree, the one that's downed, as well as the other downed trees, and that the applicant at 126 Summit Road, the Riveras, will present as per their letter before the last quarter of 2025, a landscaping plan with Andrea Buckingham in consulting with the arborist John Linson. I think that's it, yeah?
Well, and with an absolute minimum of
With
2 trees for every downed tree. But specifically being hardwood species similar to the ones that were taken down, rather than simply understory trees that were used as a shrub fence, in that proposal. So it's hugely important that like trees are replaced, I think.
But if
with-
like trees is a different thing, I want to be clear, like, because part of this is that I will want to plant a tree perimeter around the deer fence, right?
Mhm.
And so like an oak will not do a very good job doing
No,
that.
no,
right?
they're not on the fence.
Well, you can
they're-
do, if I can just interject, you can, trees, and there are many kinds of trees, many kinds of bushes, they have different uses. I mean, there's no limit to how many trees you can plant. I think what we're saying is for the ones that have been taken down, at a minimum, there should be 2 hardwood species, not necessarily direct like, but like in terms of canopy cover and so on and so forth, and biodiversity, at the advice of Mr. Linson, to Andrea Buckingham. Of course, you can plant millions of other things as you need for screening or whatnot. And all of these things can be placed so as to enhance your views, not compromise them. I mean, that goes without saying. But-
Right, I'm just saying that like, if we're going to become this specific on what the trees are now, then I like,
I don't think we are
That's
being
not specific. That's not very specific.
So there are 2 different categories. There's Andrea Buckingham's landscaping design plan, which will involve a host of different bushes, shrubs, and so that's something yet to come. Then there is a small subset of categories that are replacement trees for the ones taken down. Those do need to be like in terms of canopy size, biodiversity, et cetera, at their mature level. I think that's completely fair on a 2-to-1 basis, as we talked about. Again, that too will be at at her discretion, before coming to us on the advice of Linson. But I don't think that they're all out of line or unfair.
but just hold on, like, just to be clear, like, most of the trees that were taken, I think all except for 1 or maybe 2, were pines that were standing in this like very shaded meadow. Like,
Trees that would grow to 100 feet at their mature.
probably, right. Or would those be trees? I'm not planning to replant those trees, but like, because you guys know more about this than I do. Would those be trees that would have been accepted by this definition?
Accepted
Accepted
As remedy.
as remedy by this
I-
definition?
I guess,
It might be. I mean, I think, sorry to interrupt, hold that thought, but I think we'll need to hear what Mr. Linson has to say to Andrew Buckingham, looking at your property, looking at the general, community, what the populations of trees are, where there's a surfeit, where there's a deficit, but.
What I don't want to end up in, like, out of my inexperience, is a situation where I'm basically cannot, I have to distribute 20 trees that I don't have a good place for. And I cannot put them where basically the trees that were taken. Like, I don't plan to replant everything there in the meadow, but like, I don't want to end up in a situation where I have trees that need a lot of space around them. And I basically,
I think
get
that's why,
compromised
I
in my
think that's
landscaping
where
plan.
Andrea Buckingham can assist in the choice.
but I think the gray area here right now, what you're saying is that the type of tree that was removed, are you being tasked with replacing that with a different type?
Exactly.
That's what I'm hearing.
That is exactly the point I'm trying to make.
That's the clarification that I think that he's putting in place, saying why.
Yeah, that's right.
We're open to,
Or are
your
we
suggestions of what
open
you
to
like.
letting
there.
the 2 of them rather than saying at this point which species? That's what I'm hearing.
That is exactly
That's
my
where you
point,
need
yes.
help.
Yes, but the
Are
bottom
you,
line.
are we open to that is what he's asking, is letting them make the distinction or at least the suggestions to come back without saying it must be these types of hardwoods.
You're spot on. Thank you so much for clarifying.
The bottom line is that we want it to be as good as it was before. The benefits of the trees for the wildlife. That's what we're aiming for. The damage was done, and so we're replacing the damage. So I have a high confidence with Andrea Buckingham and John Linson and the good intentions of the Riveras, who I just want to say in their merit, when they removed some shrubs in their property, they donated them to the Tuxedo Park Garden Club at the Centennial Garden. So all those boxwood hedges there were donated by the Riveras. So I have a high confidence with them and trust with Andrea Buckingham, with John Linson. So I'm very happy that when this plan is presented, or even before it, that all these comments will be taken place, and we'll have a go into granular detail with the species then. But I think at the principle now we can move on. And
Without even, just to be clear, without even making a distinction between understory versus overstory.
I think it's the goal, the remit is to replace what was removed so that it's equally valuable. So if it's so that's the task that
in one way or another,
and Andrea Buckingham has.
And it's a task you give to Andrea Buckingham at the advice of Linson, and we just believe, okay.
Exactly.
One deal.
They're the
Okay.
professionals, and I think I
It's a very, very long resolution. It's the longest resolution in the history of the bar.
It's efficient now.
Yeah, and then just for this abundance of clarity, in the period from today until the point that I will present this plan no later than end of first quarter of next year,
You can remove.
we're gonna remove and start maintaining the property.
Yes.
Great.
Good. Wonderful.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Yes.
4-0 unanimous vote. Thank you. I just want to make one last comment that this situation was more difficult than normal because the property is on the ridge line, and that for other property owners, we need to do a better. We need to make sure property owners know if they're on the ridge line, because if you're on the ridge line, you have to get permission to remove even one tree. Normally, a property owner can remove 4 trees per year, but on the ridgeline, you cannot remove any trees without permission. So just for other homeowners that are on the ridgeline, we need to make that very clear. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank you
all.
so
Thanks for
much.
resolving
Thank
this
you.
today.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Welcome to the board. Thank you.
So much fun.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Hello,
Hi.
welcome.
Nice meeting you.
And you.
My name is Irina Ioffe. I'm an architect, registered architect in state of Connecticut and New York. I've been retained by my client and owner of 182 Tuxedo Road.
Would your client come?
Yes,
join us?
would you like? Yeah, his name is Anatoly Umansky.
Очень приятно. Здрасте.
For starters, I would like to let you know that I'm extremely excited to work in Tuxedo Park. That would be my first project here, though I do have 30 years plus experience to design homes in America. So, but the reason why I'm so excited about it, because I've been educated actually in a classical architecture in Eastern Europe, as you could guess from my accent.
I heard you outside. That's
Okay.
why.
And I really appreciate all styles of architecture, though I think there is probably just one style that matters, which is a good architecture, which I think is an abundance in Tuxedo Park. And I was here a few years ago for a tour, architectural tour, and I really appreciate what I've seen. It's like beautiful landscape, of course, and amazing compendium of all revival American style of architecture you can imagine. It's just blew my mind, and I thought at that time it would be great to design here. And then to make the story short, I'm here in front of you, and so you probably know the property better than I. It's the property located in a gateway district, which
Can I s-
requires, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Do you have multiple copies?
I do have, yes, maybe like this. Yes, I'll give you, yes.
Yeah.
So this one probably I'm gonna keep because I kind of highlighted
Oh, I
things,
see. Mhm.
here, but so this is actually a very old, well, not very old, but old survey. So we are in the middle of updating the survey. So it is already a surveyor and engineer to start working on the project. So this survey is going to be updated. But I started to work with that. Kind of design presenting some ideas and of course get your feedback. So as I said, it's a gateway district. So the first thing is was the setback from the property line, from the edge of the street, 150 feet. And this is that curved line. That's that 150. Then of course we have side setback and rear setback, which is 50 feet. We also have a sewer and a storm drain that comes through the property. So with all of this, we really have a buildable area, which I designated here with red. This is like this little triangular piece.
What's the square footage that's anticipated?
So the square footage of the house is approximately 5,000 square feet. This is one family residence, 2-story, 43 feet, I think, height. The footprint, 5,000 square feet, yeah. And the footprint is the house is approximately 4,000, including the pet. So the idea was to, well, first of all, as you could see, not too much of a choice where to locate, to locate the house. Second of all, there is an existing driveway here, and when I met with, actually before I started even to design the house, I made an appointment with John, and he walked me through the regulations and kind of like wishes, and he gave me very important literature to read. So he told me that even that there are some kind of gates around this property,
Yes.
they don't mean that we can cut through them and make a driveway from the Tuxedo Road. First of all, Tuxedo, we were not supposed to have driveway from Tuxedo, new driveway from Tuxedo Road, but I believe if you had existing entrance, you could potentially, but he discouraged us to go this route. So therefore, we decided just to use the gravel driveway, which is shared by 2 other neighbors. And they have easement to use that. And so the obvious move, of course, was to just create a driveway off that existing gravel driveway. So again, I tried to, I had to cross the storm
The bridge,
drainage.
like a bridge.
So we need to create some kind of bridge, and we'll, well, the drainage is in ground, but we're gonna be working with the engineer, of course, and make sure that all the clearances are fine. Like for the purpose of preliminary design and location of the house, I stayed away 10 feet from the storm drainage, which was actually required. This house was in front of multiple boards 14 years ago,
Yes.
something like that, yeah. And one of the documents stated that it has to be 10 feet away, so that's what I did. I'm kind of close to that, but I definitely tried to stay away from that. And another thing I really made sure that we are working with existing grade. I tried not to bring any fill, or as little as possible of fill to the property. So I worked with existing grade where the driveway is, and the house is raised above that just to allow some kind of positive drainage away from the house. But on the back, we are kind of the preliminary patio is at grade. Yeah, so we don't have to change anything here. In terms of the landscaping, I'm not a landscape architect. We're definitely gonna obtain landscape architect for this. And I asked John to give me a couple names, to suggest a couple names of the architects that work with the village, with Tuxedo Park specifically. And I heard, like you mentioned, actual landscape architect during this previous application. I don't know if you would recommend maybe her, because I'm gonna interview we're gonna interview some landscape architects and make sure that we're gonna obtain somebody who knows everything about it. But so far, I would imagine we need some screening, of course, of the property lines. And we need some screening and creating some kind of garden around the house. And there is a potential view from the second floor towards the Tuxedo Road, which goes, it's actually cut off here, but it goes this way. So there's a clearing kind of created by Tuxedo Road. So it would be great if we could somehow see if we could. We definitely cannot see anything from the first floor, but on the second floor, there is a potential and
To see the lake.
to see the lake. So that's where my master bedroom is located. That's where we would like to have it. So in terms of the style of the house, so I showed Anatoly, I showed him a few images, and he reacted well to kind of to the revival style or English manor style, or and I really thought that something in a aesthetics of Boise would be terrific for this property. So as you could see from my images, it's really his aesthetic is rendered brick, which is beautiful finish, and everywhere, and very simple kind of but not simplistic shapes and forms, beautiful details, not overly detailed. That's what I like about it. But he kind of created this understated gentleman country home image for his work. So that was my inspiration for the design for this house. And some of the details here you could see, like this where the details, the columns.
Was that your intention here to use the
Yes.
the raw oak on the?
Yes, yes,
lovely.
correct. Yeah, like rough stone oak. And like little details in the gable ends. Like I really like those little slits, and beautiful chimney top. That's really my favorite. And so the material wise, I thought the roof probably would be wood shingles. That was used a lot, like actually for the cottages like that. And the walls probably stucco, and the color to be determined. I mean, I do like the lighter stucco. My client likes a little bit darker, earthier tones, but we're definitely gonna go with your guidance as well. Like, I would like to hear your thoughts about that, because you. I also really like the detail, like with the eave, like a corbelled detail to receive the like not very big overhangs, but like a little corbel. This. So, those are plans. I don't know if you're interested to see the plans, but
I always agree. I mean, we don't have a jurisdiction.
yes, yes. So
It often really helps us.
I can walk you through
Well, I don't
quickly
know how
just
busy,
to.
but I just remember we went to an applicant where we kind of couldn't understand something, but then he showed us the inside and everything made so much sense
Yeah.
logistically for the family. It gave a whole different flavor to it. So,
Yeah, so,
but
so-
I don't want to waste anyone's
No,
time
no,
if.
no.
but
Yeah.
I can just quickly, it's a pretty simple plan. I don't like very complicated plans, so it's usually pretty simple. So this is the entrance driveway right here, so.
Which is
Which
at
is
the
which
back
is
of
right
the
here.
property.
Yeah,
it's
so
not-
if,
right.
yeah, so if you kind of like rotate this,
Mhm.
this is what you're looking at.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the driveway right here. So you have an entrance, main entrance into the house.
Can I
full
stop you
here.
for a
Yep.
second? And is this sort of granite or bluestone?
Yeah, I was thinking
Porch?
probably bluestone. But again, I would like to hear what other materials you definitely some natural material. I would like to work with.
It's all in the
with a bit-
sourcing, I guess. Bluestone can look so great and it can look so bad.
Exactly. It's and what else do you see here very often? Like, I mean, brick, of course, but I'm not sure we're gonna go with a
I mean,
brick here.
I can also imagine granite in a sort
Granite?
of neo-Boise house, but
Mhm. Granite would be great.
I could imagine brick too. I don't know
Yeah.
whether.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't really discuss this
Right.
in, but
No,
this
no.
is, I guess
Mhm.
it's a next, yeah, I think it's a next step probably to discuss. So from the foyer, I have a staircase tucked away a little bit, but it's a beautiful big staircase with a large window, which you could see on a facade. Right here. Right there, yes.
Very.
Mm-hmm. And then you immediately to the right, you have a kind of like a guest suite, and then entrance into the TV office. It's like multi-purpose room. It's becoming more and more popular with people working from home and not wanting TV in their main area. So sometimes it's a media TV room. And it shares the porch with a great room, which is a family room, living room, whatever. So when you enter from the foyer, you get into this big space, which is, of course, again, very popular among people now these days when they want to see kitchen and a dining room and a great room together. But they do have certain separations, so there's going to be but the great room is the one that is going to have a 2-story. It's a tall space, and this is 1 story. So if you go back to the stair, you can take a corridor straight away through the mudroom and into the 2-car garage. And the mudroom has an entrance into the kitchen and also to outside. And the entrance is from the front of the house, but it's very discreet. You could see it's like kind of like hidden away on a definitely secondary thing, like tucked away here. I like negative spaces. I don't like this attached porches. I do like when they're kind of.
Get some nice detail.
Yeah, I really like this detail, like when there's an arch and you kind of sneak in the house like that. But it's not a small space. It's still pretty big. But there is definitely a subordination between the main entrance and the side entrance. So off the kitchen, we have like a dining porch, and it's also tucked away underneath of the eaves. I like that detail a lot. That's where it is, right there. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first floor. So that's and the second floor is bedrooms. We have 2-story space here. We have some bonus space above the garage, but we don't know yet if we're gonna use it or not. Maybe just for the storage for now, because I mean, there is a window could potentially be used. But so far it's just 3 bedrooms here, 2 secondary bedrooms and a master suite, which potentially will have views, and that's why it's here. And there is a balcony of the master, which also potentially could have a view toward the lake. So and even like the bathroom, master bathroom, hopefully will have a view of the lake. So I tried to, because the house is kind of like in the middle of the property and visible from each side from the roads, I felt like it's important to have all elevations to be very balanced and kind of like nice. So this is my front elevation, which is very voicey-esque. So this is the entrance, this is that bedroom, this is that side entrance, and that's the staircase. And this is the side of the that hopefully oversees the lake. That's the master bedroom, big window, kind of like a little bit slightly bay window, not very projected, but slightly projected. And the guest bedroom has like a little porch, side porch, and this is the porch of the media room right here. And this is that balcony of the master. Chimney, of course. And this is the back.
So that's the most important view
This
from
is
the
the-
village.
Yeah, so
right?
this is the one from looking from
And this was the
Tuxedo- from
only,
Tuxedo Road,
and
right?
this was the only one that to me wasn't quite getting the Boise feeling as successfly as the other
Mhm,
elevations. Partly just because the fenestration is so aggressive on this side.
Right.
And that really departs from what you'd think.
Yeah.
of the Boise.
well, that's our back porch elevation that everybody wants a lot of windows, of course.
Well,
So,
one-
but
one
we-
small detail,
Mhm.
I mean, you see the way you've linked them here and you're almost sort of not even getting any fenestration, but you're accentuating the feel of that.
Right. I mean, I probably could separate them. I just wanted to treat this more of it almost like a tower, to have like a tower effect, but I
Which is so
I can
nice,
try.
especially on the front approach.
Yeah.
This is such a nice detail.
Yeah, so this is project, so it will look like a tower of a sort, this piece. And yeah, but this one is kind of like, I hoped that because I kind of like have a little bit of a, again, innie, like a negative space there. I was hoping that it's gonna disappear a little bit
a really good
and not
point.
gonna look like it's a lot of, yeah, so
You
it's a
know,
little
thank
bit
you for pointing that
recessed.
out, because
Yes.
when you look at the elevation,
can't
you're
see
not
forward.
Yes,
counting on that.
and I know this is a little bit
Plus
confusing.
the use of
elevation.
materials, if you really are
Yes,
intending here
exactly,
and here. that's
exactly.
gonna soften it.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping next time we'll meet, again, if I'm hoping that I'm getting like a positive vibe from you about this. So next time I can bring the 3D.
That's what I was
Yes,
going to
and
say.
I will show you like you could see.
On a
them.
screen, you mean, with
Yes,
CAD?
on a screen, yeah, on a screen, or it could be renderings. I mean, that's what I'm planning to do.
It can even be a subtle rendering, just that soft, the softness of delineating what the different materials are.
Yes.
Help give
Mm.
where,
Absolutely.
what's recessive and what's. forward.
Absolutely, yeah, I know
If
this.
it's saying anything, I would say I have a huge problem with the roof line.
Mhm.
It's, to me, it's just too much. There are all these different shapes and sizes, and it's, to
Can
me,
I
it's
ask you a
just
question?
way
Is it
too
partly
busy.
that you've got the hip roof, like working a hip roof into a Boise design is a little bit not so, there isn't so much precedent in Boise, I think, for the hip roof element.
Right, I mean, there is a little bit, as you could see, like this is that hip
Mhm.
part of
But
the
of course,
roof.
that's not a Boise house, that's a.
I know,
that's a
but
house
it's
in Atlanta.
Boise, yeah, oh, Boise-esque.
Look at the house all the way to the right. It has more.
Clean,
Right.
much,
Right.
much cleaner, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
Yeah,
meant
it's-
to bring in my Boise monograph, and of course, it was so many
Yeah.
weeks ago, I forgot.
Yeah.
I'd made a whole bunch of little stickums
Uh-huh.
of very successful things that could, but
Mm-hmm.
I forgot.
I mean, I can work, I mean, this is definitely a way to
See,
straighten
that's the
this.
thing that makes it
Yeah.
look American, is when you
Right.
take that and you
Mhm.
shunt
But
that
then
on.
this and that going down, so I think it's just really
Well, I
busy.
wanted
This
to
is the
break
most
it up.
important, this is where
Right.
the whole village, historic landmark district, that we're
Right.
all gonna see that, everyone's gonna see this right in the entrance, so it's got to be
I
like
mean, one thing
amazing.
is like what you just did there, and if you joined these, or I don't know if
I
you could
could-
bring that peak
Well, this,
midway. or-
yeah, well, I could probably make them on the same, I honestly, I did it on purpose to
Mhm.
bring them, like to bring them down. I just wanted to break it up. But I can definitely study how we can simplify
I
this
mean, I do
roof.
love some of these sweeps like
mhm.
that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sweep is good, it's just all the stuff that's behind it.
This one you don't really see. Usually it's gonna be all, like, this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna see this
Based on
probably.
The siding and the grade.
Yeah.
It'll actually, you won't pick up on that.
Yeah, you
as much.
won't pick up
I
this roof,
understand that.
but what I'm gonna
But-
do, when I'm gonna do the rendering, I will show you how it's gonna look from the road. It's gonna be pretty easy to do. So you'll see you'll see this elevation exactly from that road and how
Sorry
it's
to
gonna be
interrupt.
perceived.
Sorry to, Desiree has lost contact.
Oh,
Oh, this elevation is less.
Sorry, just
of
stop.
an issue for you,
Stop.
or is it, for instance,
Rob.
that?
There's a lot
Rob.
of issues, there's
Okay.
many issues.
Desiree has lost contact. Just hold
Oh,
on.
Desiree, it's-
second.
this-
Yeah, hold on one second.
sorry.
Let's see if she calls back in. Unless she's having problems.
So she's our recording secretary, so she needs to listen to.
I mean, there is definitely a way to play with the roof lines. I will try and,
right. I mean, and I think from what I'm hearing is just that we're trying to maybe guide it in a little bit, but not regulate your design process.
no, but
And
I
love
love,
the
I love,
choices in general, as I think all of us do. And
Yeah.
frankly, Boise is someone who isn't really that well represented here, and I wish were more. It's particularly with new buildings. I think it's a great trope. It's an easily achievable one.
Yeah.
Not every kind of trope is.
exactly.
I think it does then come down to certain things like, I mean, without getting ahead of ourselves, and I know we don't have a recording sector, but.
To be honest with you, Desiree will have access to the recording for her
Oh,
minutes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So just speak clearly.
So, I mean,
She won't have to do the minutes anyway
it- it
unless there's
does-
a resolution, so it's.
I mean, it does come down premature not to materials.
Yeah.
Like that's so exciting. It was the thing that jumped out at me and probably all of us. This sort of like very raw oak, sort of the way it was being used. The idea of that being done repeatedly. One thing you see a lot in Boise is, and actually it's a big deal. Like normally I always would urge people away from bright whites. I think
Yes,
if you're going with Boise, I think it's dangerous
Not
not
to.
to. I think you run the risk of looking really just
Pedestrian.
pedestrian real
Mhm.
fast.
Mhm.
With Boise, you see these, and the thing is, you don't have any chimney pots on this, which I understand why, and I'm not suggesting you do them.
Mhm.
But you're now missing out on an opportunity for that very classic Boise sort of ceramic
right.
over white
Yeah.
contrast. And
Mhm.
so one thing that occurred to me was, something you do see, and I actually looked at the Boise monograph to see if there's any
Yeah.
precedent for it, but I see in other buildings here, in fact, I have a building that does this,
Mhm.
but you have brick over this.
Mhm.
If you found antique bricks,
Mm.
which are, sourceable, to like a detail like that could just sing off of a bright white.
Yeah, no, that's definitely,
Well,
Yeah,
I
just
just
have to-
wanted to, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I always have a little fear of bright.
Yeah,
Yeah, bright
we
white
have
is
to
a little bit,
consider
yeah.
the
I
half
do
timbered
too.
house
It's-
behind it. Don't
Yeah.
forget that, don't
No,
forget
it's
what
my
else
least
is
favorite
there.
color. It's just that when I look at these as, I don't think I'd ever urge someone to this isn't a shocking white, but it's
No,
much.
no, no,
It's
So I'm not saying like
soft.
paper white,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
but it's a warm, soft, bright
ivory.
white. These ones I think very quickly look like every suburban development in America. And I think those are dangerous. And the other thing that jumped out on this page that I thought was not so handsome was this detail, which worried me because it's something, the joining.
Yeah, no,
No.
yeah, I guess this is maybe not the least successful join-in that I didn't like. I also like I like the either gray or maybe like greenish.
Well,
maybe
verdigris,
trim.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
pea green or a verdigris or something like that
mhm.
is another thing that you see again if we all look at the monograph or go in our own time and
Yeah,
look.
he was famous for his.
Some of them are
green.
actually quite shocking, but
But
Yeah, I don't know if Anatoly will allow me to go with that green.
And I mean, on the other hand, I feel pretty strongly to say that, you know, of course, everyone strives for historical reference, but I also don't personally feel that you don't need to be slavish to
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
else's
Yeah,
style.
yeah,
You know, you have
exactly.
to
It's
adapt
an
it to
inspiration, but
to your desire, your client's current needs and
for sure.
and what feels.
Which I think is what you've given us. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not, it's not a Voisey replica by any means.
Yeah.
It's one that in terms of been well thought out in terms of use and floor plan and everything. I do agree with Stephanie that, you know, while not being slavish, also if you can avoid what we speak of, if you know the site McMansion Hell, and I'm not even beginning to sort of put you in that, but one of the tropes that she is obsessed with is a cacophony of different roof lines, especially when they seem willful or random.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
And so the extent to which you can simplify that, I agree with Stephanie there. And I don't think that's being slavish historical, but just sort of sensitive to
I was
roof lines.
talking about materials selection only.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
completely agree with calming down the roof lines.
Yeah. And again, I think with material, I think it's a way of adding texture to what you're trying to do and making it
Dimensional.
dimensional and not just add water suburban like and I think that's why I mentioned premature and not certain things like brick and how they can be used, I think is actually quite important. And I think an early conversation is not an inappropriate time to talk about materiality and even choices and sourcing and so on and so forth.
No, I agree because it's the next thing because
Mhm.
after the massing is done and fenestration is done and kind of roof line is more or less there. I think that's the conversation has to happen with especially house in Tuxedo Park.
But I
It's
think
very
you're
important.
coming back to your point about, you know, what choice you make on this. If it is going to be whatever, hopefully, yes, soft and not shocking, but also has its own conviction. Like you don't want something that's afraid of its own shadow, like these beiges and things.
Where
I
it
think.
becomes artifice.
Yeah, so I think something, you know, not bright white, but in that direction, then a lot of weight is, particularly if you use details like this, a lot of weight's being put on those. And so what you choose, as you were saying, I think it becomes important. And there, I think, something that is a little bit surprising enough not to look generalized and suburban, but not shocking in a way that's distracting. And your question about verdigris and sort of moss greens or even pea greens, like with a little more conviction, I think is really interesting if you're going into a Boise trope, admittedly with
Yeah.
not
Right.
slavishly, but
Right. Yeah, no.
that's all for me. Sorry, I just wanted to.
No,
There's a hand
appreciate
up. There's a hand showing.
that. Yes,
Christopher.
yes.
So here are my thoughts. So the aim of this house is to be a feature in the next book of architecture in Tuxedo Park. We already have one book. So the bar is very, very high because it's the most visible. It'll be the most visible new house in the park. Everybody's going to see it. So my thoughts on the...
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure there.
My thoughts on what you've provided. I love the backside. I love the mishmash of different styles and small and large windows. I agree the other side, which is the visible side, has way too many windows, large windows. So yeah, to address that. I think in the next stage, as you develop it, the three-dimensional video would be so important, as if you're driving along Tuxedo Road. So you see it, so you have a cam or whatever it is, you know, so that you see it in the context of the houses behind it and the meadow in front and as you're curving around the road. So I think that worked well with one of the other new houses on Westlake Road. And it was very easy for us to understand how it looked in relation to the other houses, to the lake and to the road. So that would be very, very important. As far as the landscape is concerned, I'm not sure if Mr. Umansky loves very, very manicured properties and lots of annual flowers and plants, or is a little bit more into the tuxedo patina, where it's sort of more natural and naturalistic, which would be ideal for this house, that it's not so pretty and frou-frou, the landscaping, so that it doesn't stick out that, oh, look, it's a brand new house and it's a brand new garden. So if the garden was a little bit more, more sort of had this tuxedo patina, and that includes with the lighting, if there's, like runway lighting and everything's lit up like a Christmas tree, and the driveway has little spotlights every 5 foot, that's not going to look good. We're not going. So the lighting plan will be very important, because we don't like houses lit up in the park. People are proud of their houses sometimes and they want to light them up, but we prefer that they're not. Obviously for safety reasons, yes, for access, but we don't want it lit up. And so that goes back to the landscaping, that it'd be nice to have a partial view of the house. And I'm sure Mr. Umansky would like not to see all the cars go by, so that if there's an aggressive landscaping plan, and obviously we can recommend landscapers that have that tuxedo patina type landscaping. The other point was so just to like the driveway, whether it's if it's going to be a black tar driveway, that's not going to look good. A gravel driveway, obviously a little bit better condition than the current one, but if it's a gravel driveway, that would be lovely, so that the house looks as if you've done a beautiful restoration job of an old house and it's not a brand spanking new house. So there are my thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate your thoughts. Can you give me an example of the lighting along the driveway? What would be acceptable in Tuxedo Park? Or you don't want to see any light?
I can send you the regulations regarding exterior lighting, in general, down lighting in general.
That's what I usually do. I never do the up lighting. I usually do the down lighting, but maybe like there's something specific.
I'll send you the specification.
Usually, when you're driving to a house, you're driving in the car. Very rarely people walk to people's houses in Tuxedo Park. You're driving there. So if you're driving there at night, the headlights will light up where the driveway is. So you don't need all these little pixie lights, lit up all evening for people as if they're walking there and showing where the driveway is, which is unfortunately what's happened to a lot of driveways here. It looks
like a landing strip.
Yeah, Heathrow Airport.
So, or if it is a landing strip, that it's motion activated so that it's when someone's walking there. But so yeah, that would be the a bit of that would the thing. You're probably not here in the evening so much, but take that opportunity in the evening to drive around Tuxedo Park, and then you'll get it immediately.
Well, there's a very good example, a bad example, very close to this house. I don't know if you noticed when you drive up Tuxedo Road, someone's got about, I don't know, like 15 or 20 little tiny bright bluish white lights that are sort of around below you. So if, it's part of the Alexander Estate as well, but it's over this way.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have a conversation. It's probably gonna be landscape architect who's gonna design this, but I will.
The lighting frame.
Yeah, but I'm hoping to work with somebody who knows Tuxedo Park well, and so we don't make mistakes.
I think less is more is the general rule, as Christopher's indicating. Obviously,
less lighting.
places where you've got a terrace or something where you need to use it, but then maybe there are ways of screening with with bushes and so on.
And if you can avoid lawns, that would be fantastic. What we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Oh,
You're against lawns? Welcome to the park. No, the thing is, we're trying to There are some really fantastic projects going on where people are converting their lawns to non-mowing lawns. So there's either short native grasses that look really soft and beautiful.
Mhm.
And just a couple of weeks ago, someone proposed to take away his entire lawn and replace it with clover and thyme.
Mm.
That it doesn't need to be mowed at all, and it's soft and beautiful and fragrant, and you can cook with it. So you can go there and
Roll around
pull
in
it
it
off
like
for your
catnip.
pizza. I know, it's fantastic. No, it's really wonderful for the bees and for the
What
general
about
environment.
meadows? Like, do you?
Love.
Oh, yes.
You're talking to the guy who brought the biggest meadow of all.
Really?
Well, the sedges are a great thing as well, because you have that effect of a lawn, a green, but there's longer grass, and so it blows with the wind, and it's
Mm.
doesn't need maintenance as well. So the other thought that I had, and I'm sure it's because these are preliminary drawings, but I just want to make sure, because Edwin Lutyens, the architect,
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's
Please.
one of my favorites.
he used to put so we can't be too inspired by him, because he used to put the downspouts inside the house as opposed to outside. The British Embassy in Washington has the downspouts inside, so it's caused a huge problem because they fail.
I have that. I
Yeah.
have that. I have it.
Don't
Thank
like to
you.
do that,
No,
honestly.
don't do
I'd
it.
rather do some kind of beautiful downspout.
The downspouts they're functional, but they can be extraordinarily beautiful.
Yeah.
And that be and to add these unusual, beautiful elements that aren't strictly necessary, they're a little bit whimsical, not crazy, but in a classic sort of language vocabulary. That's important for this house to be successful, to be unique, and to bring something new to the table, as it were, instead of just a pastiche of things past. So that's what we'd welcome, so that so it can be featured highly, and maybe not a cover lot, but a centerfold in the new architectural book.
You know, it occurred to me one thing, just coming back to there is one other Boise-esque house, which is the Rivkins house, which is less decidedly Boise-esque than this, but definitely Boise-esque in some ways. And what they originally had passed as their color for stucco, which was not bright white, sort of Boise, but it was not this either. It was something called sailcloth. It was a Benjamin Moore color, I think.
It is a Benjamin Moore.
Yeah, and that was really handsome because it had a brightness and a light, but it was a little soft. Now, in the end, they ended up not doing what had been passed, and I did a brighter white, which I think,
painful.
which is
Yeah,
not
to be
successful.
very
So,
honest.
Yeah.
so just coming back to this,
Mhm.
and I wonder what white this is. This is very
This
appealing,
is
but
really beautiful.
the sailcloth might be one step greater in value or
Darker.
whatever, but not quite as bright
And
as
you
that.
do have to go darker in value what you view on the
Mhm.
sample than what occurs over a much larger span when it's also fully lit.
Right,
It's
so it'll
it's
still
completely
look
different
nice and
than what
bright.
you
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like, when we come to color, and I think it's so important that when we see the mock-up, that we see the half timbered house just beyond. So we want to be
The
sensitive to
context
that.
of it, yeah.
Yeah, we just want to be sure
Totally.
that when we look on the 3D, that
Yeah.
whatever color the
yeah.
first house is not going to fight with that
Right.
beautiful old house behind.
The little
Yeah,
tea house. Or
the half timber, I think, behind is like more of a earthy, right, color, as far as I remember.
It doesn't need to be the same, but if they're not going to clash, that would be very important, in my opinion.
I think all those ones in the Alexander estate are favoring brighter white rather than less. They have dark timbering, and then
Mhm.
I think so, I might be off.
The important thing as well is with the windows, that the windows woodwork isn't painted white. That's
Yes. Yeah.
that would kill it. So that they're either dark or dark green or something that's
Yeah,
appropriate.
definitely dark windows, that's for sure. Not
Right.
white. Right?
Yes.
See, he agrees with me. Oh, wow.
So what's your schedule for moving? Do you have a
Tomorrow?
so do you live quite nearby at the moment, or? No, New Jersey.
Couple hours, right?
Oh,
big
2
drive.
hours.
Tonight?
You have to
Okay.
go back tonight, right?
Okay.
Yeah, next time I'm gonna come without him. Is it okay? Because we can't.
We require the
It's-
applicant or his representative to be present, but the architect
Can he
can,
be on a Zoom or not?
we've allowed people to be on Zoom.
Mhm.
That makes sense, right? If it's a
2.5
2 hour.
hours every
It's a
time.
long haul.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty close. I'm in Westchester. So
Wonderful. It's really
Okay.
exciting.
Thank you.
very exciting. Like it's, I'm so excited about this project. And thank you so much for your
thank
comments.
you.
I think it's great. Like I love collaboration. I love to work with people and hear with people. I don't have huge ego.
I don't think any of us have, maybe. Chris. No, we don't.
Well, you've earned it, baby. You've earned it.
Any architects here?
Well, you are.
No, design,
Just-
we engage architects in our
We're used to
firm
these
for all of our
discussions.
projects, yeah. But we will not be hijacking your design, that's for sure.
No,
But we-
honestly,
we're here to assist.
I really appreciate comments. It's definitely everything you said that makes sense, and I'll work with that.
So I come from a historic renovation background as part of my work. So Edwin Lutyens building, John Russell building, and now McKimmey and White, and some other ones. So that's, I'm not so much in, in someone who understands brand new construction. Very much on the restoration front.
Right. Well, I know it's very difficult to design in the steps of names like that. I have to tell you, I have to do a lot of new construction, like in a different style. So I'm very insecure sometimes.
Feel free to visit, if I always invite, I
would
always
love
have
to,
architectural
actually.
tours.
Can
you
I,
know, I've
can
always
I, by the
had.
way, like I would love
Always.
to take an architect, because I would like a refresher. It's been, I don't know how many years since I've been here, and it was just once. And of course, I didn't see everything. And
I think
if you
that's a
could,
come all the
fantastic
way
idea.
through.
We
If you
can
could
arrange
give me
a
just-
tour or
if
something.
you could give me a tour, that
Just the
would be.
exposure alone will.
I
I
will
would
enjoy
love
it
to. I
tremendously,
take photos.
tremendously.
I'll do some sketches and maybe get
Let's
some.
do
Well,
that.
I really appreciate that you're happy to do that. I think that's fantastic.
I would be thrilled to do that.
And there are
So-
things that you've done here that are just so exciting. I mean, that negative space, front hallway is just really exciting. That's something that we don't see the architects or client, applicants coming forward with something that interesting from the get-go. So it's really exciting.
So we'll maybe get our heads
Sure,
together to
sure.
see which houses might be most
And or if
appropriate,
I'm
and
away,
we'll do
you
a
guys
tour.
go do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even just from the exterior and do a flyby, you'll really enjoy it.
Oh, Shikubai, so cool.
Yeah.
So we'll make a list,
Yeah.
and we're gonna
Yeah.
get people to open their doors.
Yeah.
That would be terrific.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to Japan for 2.5 weeks on Friday. So I'm coming back end of October. So
Okay.
anything in November.
So
Same,
then I will
I'm
be
also
here.
gonna
That's
be
fine.
away. We actually not even
Same.
having any
We don't even have a
sessions, I
meeting
think.
yet.
Yes.
Watch me, I'm gonna come back from Japan, and it's gonna be all like Pagoda style.
Well, then you have to show Shikubai, which is so interesting because it basically synthesizes Elizabethan and Japanese architecture in this beautiful arts and crafts meld. Oh, you
Yeah.
haven't been to it?
No.
It's so
Oh,
cool.
wow.
It's right across from Amy and Brett. Speaking of Amy and Brett, it's up, it hunkers above them.
Okay.
Looms above them. Very cool.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Sure. Probably let's.
Yes. This is you?
And you live in the laboratory, don't you? So I mean, that's a no-brainer, right?
And these are the guidelines. This one.
This one.
Which part of the building are you occupying?
Are we done?
No, we have to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do we have more?
So, yes, so now we move to the approval of the minutes, please. Desiree, can you remind me, please, of the dates of the two sets of minutes we have to approve?
Yes, August 28th and September 16th.
So has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? I think we have, except Julie, who's not, or wasn't present.
I wasn't present.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve those 2 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
3 in favor and Julie abstaining. And
Motion to adjourn if you want.
yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye, Christopher.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you so
evening.
much.
Bye.